welcome back to Powerless, our special coverage of our interview with CenterPoint's CEO. I have with me here today a panel of people. We've got State Senator Carol Alvarado and the rest of you electric customers who at some point have written us here at KPRC to share your experiences or your frustrations with CenterPoint. So we've invited this group here today to watch this interview with Jason Wells, the CEO of CenterPoint, and just wanted to get your feedback. Senator Alvarado, I know that you had the opportunity to hear directly from him in some hearings in July, shortly after the storm. What are your thoughts of what he had to say here and today?
I think they're making progress. I wish they had done some of these things beforehand, proactively, but I'm glad to see that they're getting out into the community, a lot of the open house meetings that they're having, and the PUC coming to my district on Saturday. We want the public to show up and express their concerns, what they went through during Beryl or the Derecho or both of them. And it seems like they're taking some accountability, which is good. Pleased to see that vegetation is a major thing on their forefront, which, as you know, we pointed out during the hearing, they had been doing less vegetation, even though that the budget may have increased, the amount of territory that they were covering was less.
Going down all those easements and trimming the trees off of the lines.
Right. So, you know, at the hearing, we weren't happy to hear about that, but to see that they have increased that, that's an improvement. And then one of the other issues that I had concern with at the hearing was the number of linemen in-house that had decreased over the years. Out of 9,000 employees, only 1,000 were in-house linemen, and they made the commitment there at the hearing that they were going to increase that. So I hope to hear more about that, but it seems like things are moving in the right direction. I think people probably still have a lot of questions, and rightfully so. Yeah,
absolutely. And before we move on to the rest of you, one of the things that you asked, and I remember hearing that question in the hearing, you asked CenterPoint, Jason Wells, before in the state capitol, do you plan moving forward to ask for, to recoup the costs that it cost CenterPoint for Hurricane Beryl and the Derecho? Like, now that you're here testifying because everyone was so upset at your response, do you plan to recoup that cost? His answer was yes. You didn't like that?
No, I didn't, because there was no hesitation, no pause. It was just, yes, we plan to do so. I'd hoped they would have said either flat out, no, not at this time, we can't even address that, or we're looking at all options, but it was a very fast yes. And I would think there's bipartisan support throughout the Capitol, both sides of the rotunda, for them not to seek that increase or that reimbursement.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to talk to you, Scott, because a lot of the problems that people were complaining about were not necessarily just that the power went out. Hey, there were strong winds, the power went out. Yes, it took a while to get back on, but were communication issues.
Right.
And when you emailed me recently, yours was a communication issue, not even during the storm, but Tuesday.
This past Tuesday. Power blinked at 4 o'clock. At 4:10 it went off. Chamber of Commerce weather day. Finally got into CenterPoint, and the recording said it would be back on by 9:15 p.m. So like 5 hours. The power wound up being restored in about 40 minutes through social media and other avenues. Come to find out, the power. I'm down at West Columbia. I'm literally 200 yards from the end of CenterPoint's service area. So I'm right at the tail end of CenterPoint. The power outage affected as far north as Sugar Land, with Rosenberg, Richmond, Pleak, Needville, Guy, Damon, and all the way to Texas, New Mexico power. So when I did call in, they said it was going to be a 5-hour outage, and in 40 minutes it was back on. So,
and you say all this because you think that it must have been planned, if it was that widespread.
I'm assuming it was a planned outage for tie-ins or something. So why weren't we notified? We could turn off our ACs. I've replaced 3 televisions probably in the last 8 years from power surges. Now I can't prove that, but the TVs start acting up as soon as we have a blip or something. So That's what goes through my mind.
And we have heard that from a whole lot of people. We want to draw people's attention too, as we're talking to all of you. We've been sort of doing this poll along the bottom of our screen throughout the interview with the CEO, and we're keeping that up there on basically your general feeling watching his interview. We have about a quarter of the people who said that they liked it, but the majority of people watching it said it made them feel angry. More than 50% felt angry. What about you, Karen? How did you feel?
Frustrated. Because it feels like now they're trying to take action after something happened. And it feels like every year it's the same situation. When we get through a storm, then things happen, and then now they're going to try to replace, now they're going to try to trim trees, now they're going to try to do all of these things that should have been done in preparation, because every year we're going to get at least a storm. I mean, this is going to continue. It's not going to get any better, actually. So, he says that he's going to get things better, but not exactly how long that's going to take.
Yeah.
At what cost is that going to happen? And what exactly is he going to do? I mean, he's talking about some nice things, but I don't feel secure. I mean, I was 10 days without power. And calling CenterPoint 3 times a day, the story was totally different. Yeah, you're going to get it. We have a crew assigned to you. And then you call 3 hours later. Oh, you're not even on the map. You haven't even been looked at. Or then you call the next day. Oh, no. It's going to happen today. So 10 days pass. And I believe it was all about numbers. We were left with the 60-something thousand people out of the almost, 2 million.
2.2.
So
million.
25 houses don't bring that number down.
Right.
You really got to target, right? 5,000
bigger
houses. Yeah, and then you see those numbers coming down.
Yeah.
In my case, I knew we were going to be at the end of it because of that little number of houses.
Right. Yeah.
So very frustrated.
I could hear that. Your overall feeling, Nick?
Well, it's nice to hear that they're going to plan to do some stuff, but they haven't done it in the past. And as I mentioned to you earlier, that we have a pretty diverse community from expats around the world, and they indicate that this is the least reliable electric grid they've ever lived on. Depending whether they've been in Asia or the African continent or wherever, working in the energy business. So that's a pretty sorry state for the United States to have a 4th largest city have an unreliable grid, and everybody in the neighborhood is considering putting in a generator. Really, we need to put in our own generators just to have reliable electricity.
Right.
That flies in the face of everything that we stand for as America, in my mind.
And not that everyone can afford a generator.
Correct.
Or a whole house generator.
And we're paying more for power now than we ever have.
Right.
And I brought that up in the hearing. We're getting into this situation of the haves and the have-nots. When if you can just do what the basic things that you should be doing, addressing vegetation and such, and hardening your infrastructure, then that remedies most of that.
Right. And we're going to circle back and talk to everybody, but Alex, you might be a familiar face because we came to you when the majority of people still had no power, and you had no power, although most of your neighbors did, and it was this vegetation issue.
I had no power when all of my neighbors had power. So, what frustrated me was at the very beginning of all this, before the storm, I called CenterPoint and I told them that I had a tree that was consuming my service drop. I asked them to come out and assess that and help me trim the tree, and they said they would. When the guys came out, it was toward the end of the day, they probably wanted to go home. They essentially told me that the service drop was not their responsibility, it was my responsibility.
Yeah.
And I said, no. I said, like water, gas, power, anything on that side of the meter in the weatherhead is your responsibility. Anything on this side is mine.
Yeah.
I said, I called one of my contractor buddies, his electrician. They said they're not even allowed to touch a service drop, that the connection has to be made by CenterPoint. Well, to make matters worse, the service drop was hanging so low that I could reach up and touch it.
And that is not allowed.
I asked them to raise it because I felt it was dangerous, and they said, no, I had to do it on my own.
Yeah. So your overall feeling, we're going to take a quick break, but out of those choices that you have there, Alex?
Oh, I don't know. I think you got to put another face up there for me, because all I heard were goals, objectives, and mission statements. I didn't hear any game plan. He's in such hot water that he got up there and he was just, telling, oh, we have a goal to do this, our objective is to do better, our mission statement is to serve the people. Well, how are you going to do that? You admitted that you failed and that you are improving, but you never actually said what you failed on and what your improvements are going to be about.
Yeah.
you know?
We want to talk a little bit more about that when we come back. And that self-healing grid, this is pretty new. So we'll touch a little bit what the information that we know about it. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.